All right, sweet. I've got it all traced over. Here's what it looked like. Looks great. I can decide which way looks better, up or down. It all just started off of that. I traced it onto that side, and then I traced both of those onto that side. And now I've got a cool Talavera design. It's a pattern. It's radial, right? It goes in 4 different directions. It's regular because all the things were traced the same way. If you get it done like this and you go, I got a bunch of empty space I don't like, you could always draw something little in one of those spaces and retrace it on all the parts. Sometimes I do that. All right. Now, how am I going to get this onto my piece of clay that I showed you? So let's look at this though first. Here's a book. I've got lots of books. We're going to use these just for weight. And my little tile is inside here. So I'm going to give you guys a blank one of these. How do you get this onto there? There's a trick. Like usual, it's a magic trick. All right. The first thing I want to explain though is, why is this on the piece of cardboard between 2 pieces of cardboard with a book on top of it? It all has to do with warping. So we know clay is all about water. It's about how dry it is, how wet it is. When something thin dries out of clay, anything, it dries on the outsides first and the insides later. So as the outsides shrink but the inside doesn't, what a slab is going to want to do is warp, or what I sometimes call a potato chip. It'll end up looking like a Pringle at the end, right? We don't want Talavera tiles like this. They won't stick on the wall. So what I've come up with is leaving them. I'm going to make them. Now, right after I make them, they go in between the 2 pieces of cardboard and they get left in stacks with a book on top. That should keep them flat while they're wet. While you're working on it, or between working on it every day, you want to put it back in your locker, in between the 2 sheets of cardboard with a book on top. I'm also going to give you guys a bag. This actually helps it keep it from drying out too much. Like the cardboard sucks up a little bit of water on both sides, so it's drying evenly. That's another thing to make it not potato chip. But I think putting it inside of a bag, especially because we're probably going to work from one week to the next, and we don't want it sitting out for a whole weekend. Just putting it in a little bag will keep it moist. All right. Now next, like I said, how do I get I've got a new one here. That's the one I made. I've got a brand new plain one. How am I going to get the design on here? Right. One thing you'll see to begin with is your piece of paper is probably already bigger than this. And that's okay. We'll lose a little bit at the edges. No big deal. That's why we don't have little details. All right. This one might be a little drier than what I give you guys. I made this last week, but I've been keeping it in a bag. We're about to do a magic trick. I'm only going to do part of the magic trick, I think, because I don't want to take all the time to trace this. And the way the magic trick works is with this. And the main word is washable. That means that if I touch something I draw on a piece of paper to the wet clay, the washable ink will come right off. And it's so cool. All right. So I'm going to take this real quick. I'm just going to trace part of this here so I can show you how it works. Okay. To do this right, the clay has to be kind of just the right wet, which can be difficult, and which I can't show you on a video. The thing that we're going to try and do, there's a couple things to do. I'll have you guys all take a sponge and wet your slab down first. Some of you guys will have a slab and be doing it late and it's already really dry. Some of you guys might not need to wet it because it's a little bit fresher. I don't know. All right. Outlined it with this. I'm going to have a bunch of colors of these. They don't matter. I had to buy these with my own money and we're going to ruin them. So don't super ruin them, please. All right. Here's my thought with this one. You kind of feel how wet it is. It's getting pretty dry. Okay. I'm going to have sponges out. And we want to take the sponge and really get it wet, but then get all the water out of it. We don't want it too wet. Let's see if I can get this to work. Just going to kind of blot that on there. Get everything damp, because we don't want to puddle. That will screw it all up. That's probably pretty good, where it's just a little tacky, sticky. Then when you guys are ready, Really put it down evenly. For this part, it really doesn't matter. Don't let it move while you do this, okay? It might really help too to take something flat and rub it on there. Okay? Try a couple things here. Sometimes it works amazing. Sometimes it needs a little help. That's all about how dry it is. So if you keep a hand on it, you can at least flip it and see if it's working. Dang. It looks pretty good to me. I'll just rub a little more. It worked just fine. What I had to do with my other one is take the sponge on top of the paper and get the paper wet. So do you see how it made my design all swimmy and thick? It didn't do too good. All right, here we go. All I did was press and get it wet. Look at that. Trip out the pencil even. Transferred in some places. I haven't gotten it to do that before. There's your magic trick. It's tight, dude. You might have to draw in a couple pieces that missed, or like I said, if you really flip it up and if there's pieces that still haven't transferred, rub again, and you can get your whole design transferred on there. Obviously, you'll do the whole thing in pen and then transfer the whole thing. A couple things to keep in mind. Always, when you're ready to put it away at night, put this on top and put your book on top. I got a ton of books. Everybody will get a book. Keep it in your locker, okay? And maybe I'll show you how to carve this out here in a second too. Just some carving tricks. Remember, when you carve, you kind of want it leather hard anyway. And so after you transfer this, and it's in here, and this sucks up the moisture a little bit, it's going to get more and more leather hard. I wouldn't spray it down too much or make it goopy. How do you know if it's getting too bone dry? Once you see little whitenesses appearing here and there. See how much whiter this is than that. I like to say it's gross. But you know, you see that old dog poop that somebody left on somebody's lawn, then it just kind of starts getting frosty and white. That's kind of what the clay looks like when you're like, ooh, it's getting too bone dry. And you might need a squirt. One thing that actually would help to keep it more moist at night, if you wanted to, spray the cardboard. And also, if you have a bag, you put it in a bag. All that moisture will find its way into the clay. The clay finds the moisture in the air. All right, cool. Let's see if we get a third video of me carving.